So, hi everyone, welcome back to Podcasters Unleashed. I'm so happy to host again. We are here today for a new episode. We're going to talk about different generation. I'm going to talk about Generation Z and how they are becoming the wealthiest generation ever. And I think you're going to learn a lot of things from them, their social norms, and how they become the generation of entrepreneurs and high tech. So we are here from different generations. Unfortunately, we don't have any generations that people here, but if you are one of them, please type in the comment, let us know. And anyone here from the audience, please let us know which generation do you belong to. But before going to the discussion, I would like to introduce my co-host, Matilda. Go first.
Hello, everyone. This is Matilda. I'm the host of Copy with Matilda, A Journey to Self. And my podcast is about loving yourself, finding yourself, and coming out of adversity stronger than before. Simon, over to you.
Hello, everybody. I'm Simon. My podcasts are Taxi Chronicles, when I interview people in the taxi, as you see right now. And my Africa Investor Stories podcast is where I interview people from around the world and also in the taxi, like I did this week. And they share their experience from what it was like to invest in Africa. Over to you, Carla.
Hi everyone, I'm Carla and I'm the host of the Wonder and Wellbeing podcast, which is a podcast all about education and wellbeing. Over to you, Victor.
Okay, Victor, he has technical problems, I guess.
Yeah, hi. I have technical problems here. I did not hear you. What did you say?
I said introduce yourself to the audience.
Oh, yeah, just my Wi-Fi is going in and out. Anyways, I'm Victor Sio. I'm the host of the Diaspora Entrepreneurs podcast, and we speak to entrepreneurs who have managed to move from the core 9 to 5 towards a lifestyle of freedom.
Okay. So we want to know, Victor, which generation do you belong to? Because I feel like you face a lot of technical issues.
Nah, I'm, I'm of the 70s. I'm of the 70s. I don't know how you call it right now, but I'm of the 70s.
Let's type that. 70s.
The Gen X like me. Gen
Uh-huh.
X.
Gen X. Okay, that's cool. Well, so you see, guys, we have Gen X, we have millennials. I think three of us in the show. Gen X,
144.
2 millennials here. So yeah, I'm a millennial from a millennial generation, and I'm the host of the podcast Women with Stories podcast, where I share stories from a woman who rose above different challenges. And yes, today I want to talk to Carla and tell me, how do you feel about this new generation, and how do you define them?
Well, I've got two of them. Very interested, very, very different. My daughters are very, very interesting, very different from how I was when I was a young person. I think they just think differently. They are very savvy, tech savvy. They know what they want and they want it now. You know, it's the instant generation. It's the generation where everything is at the tip of your fingers. And they dream big. That's what I've noticed. They dream big, and they make things happen for themselves, and they don't care what anyone else thinks about it. That's what I would say I've noticed. But they also got a lot to teach us about the importance of the self, and just a lot of community and connection. They're all about connection. They're all about networking, and less about rules and regulations and structure, which in some ways is great because it means that they take risks, they get out there, they try things, they fail, they fall down. But then in other ways, it's not great because sometimes they can lack wisdom, they can have a little bit of an ego. And I think sometimes be a bit unrealistic as well. I think some of the old-fashioned ways of just being realistic with limitations is gone, and there's a kind of a need for a balance there. But I love being a parent of young people under 25, and an auntie, because I'm also an auntie to a young man of that age group. And yeah, they're fantastic. They teach us a lot. I've learned a lot from my kids and from my nephew at the moment. So much confidence as well. They give each other and you confidence, and show us what was wrong with our time, I think. So yeah, fantastic. I love them.
Speaking of rules and regulations, I think Simon is. I think he's agreeing with you because he likes to be consistent rules and to be like up straight and upfront and everything. So, Simon, do you feel like you would have loved to be from Generation Z?
Mm, no, no, they're a weak generation. They're very, very weak.
Oh
I
my,
understand what Carla said about the entrepreneurial, but if you gave them the environment that we were brought up in, it would have been a whole different ball game. They're very, very, I think they're very, very weak. I do admire the entrepreneurial spirit and moving forward, but that's because they've grown up with, it's like parents and virtually shove a phone in their hand as they're born. Take this, blah, blah, blah. And that's the entertainment. So obviously they become very tech savvy and all those kind of things. Yeah, I think I wouldn't disagree with what Carla says, though. I do understand. But it is always good to have a young person around because they can help you out when you get stuck with something on the computer. But then in saying that, they are lazy. If it's not about them and it's not benefiting them straight away, I know I sound like a very old man here, but it's the truth. They start to, oh, you're so unfair. Oh, you don't understand. It's how I feel. And all this palaver, and you just look at them and like, Jesus wept. What have I done? But back to you, Carla.
yes, I think they are more self-aware and they know how to manipulate, especially parents, because they read a lot into psychology and how they have a lot of information they can have access to these days. So they know how to manipulate older people, I guess. Yes, Matilda, tell us more about, I mean, we are from millennial generation. I think we have some differences. Do you feel like you are intimidated by them in a way?
No, I think the world is perfect as it is. Every generation comes with its strength and weaknesses. As Carla and Simon mentioned, there are a lot of positive points in this Generation Z, but there are weaknesses as well. I think doesn't matter what's happening in the world, it's the character that speaks at the end. And to have a strong character, a character that can persevere, is a important element here. And I'm not sure if they have that. um, they are in a kind of a balloon zone because everything is popped up and everything is working for them at the moment, but we don't know where the world is going and what when is this balloon is not there anymore. Can they survive? And I'm a little bit sad for them because I think at the end of the day, your, as I always mention, your value of life is the value of your connection with other people. I'm not sure if they have that, and they will suffer from it. I think it will be a generation that will have the most depression in the history. That's because they don't know how to connect with even themselves. You see a bunch of 12, 13-year-old hanging out together, no one's talking to each other, but they're on the phone. That means a massive value in their life is missing, and they will gonna pay for it. I don't know when, but they will.
Yeah.
So I love my generation.
Yes, no doubt. I love it too. But I think the Generation Z, they haven't seen a day without the technology, and I think they are from age uh, 15 to 25, I guess, or 2025. Yeah, 2025 is if I'm not mistaken. Victor, I want to ask you a question about the social norms. We see a difference between social norms in different generations. So, how is the difference of the social norms from your generation to Generation Z? Yes, I think your connection is not that. um,
He's frozen. He's from dinosaur zone.
he's
Not
ghosting
today,
us.
not today, not today, not today. See, Kara, Hala, you mentioned it- it- you mentioned something about they know how to manipulate their parents. I think sometimes we just feel sorry for them, not manipulation. Yeah, we just feel sorry for them because if you withdraw the PlayStation or you turn off the Wi-Fi, you see them like something else. So it's not manipulation. We just want them to just I have a Gen Z, not one, two, three. Yeah, they can. If you say you're going for, I went out on Saturday with my son and we're taking the train. He was just like this throughout. So, oh, I needed this. Oh, I want that. And when you say no, you see the eyes go teary, the eyes go red, and he like wants to pop out. Like, why would you say no? You get so. I think we just feel sorry for them, not because we don't know that they can just twist your hands. You know, yeah. And regards what Matilda said, connection. They rather they rather connect online friends who lives next door than go out and play with them on the back garden.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's just what I would like to say for now. Over to you, Carla. Hey, Hala.
Go ahead, Matilda and Simon next.
I think this is what exactly what Victor is saying. This is why I feel like metaverse can be a very scary component in our life soon, because Generation Z rather be online with someone than to meet them face to face and interact with them personally. So I think metaverse, not I think, I believe metaverse will be very important part of our life very soon because of this generation. They have the base is ready for them.
Yeah,
And
metaverse is
maybe
prepared for them.
another question is: do you think it's our fault? Do you think it's me that is not
Victor,
actually?
you just took my words out my mouth. At the end of the day, they're brought up by somebody. Now, there's also a couple of things you've got to consider. If you like, for us who live in London in England, it's run by people who have slightly different cultures from, let's say, from mine. So in politics, and they make laws. So certain ways of bringing up your children that you may do in Jamaica or Nigeria or Romania or wherever, you can't necessarily do there, and you kind of conform. Also, there's obviously what's shown on the TV, which is dictated by the government, but also public opinion can influence things in what they don't want to see, and they can write petitions and all those things. But you're still dealing with 195 different cultures or nationalities in London, because there's 300 different languages spoken in London. So when you
Yes.
throw that all in the mix, it's like sometimes your child might do something if they're younger, well, not too young, of course, and you might just give them a backhander. But nowadays, they go and say, "I'm going to report you," or if it's America, "I'm going to divorce you." The child's going to divorce you. Yeah, that kind of thing. So there are those things, but there are also where, and I believe Victor and I had this conversation before. It's like, well, how much stuff you do with your children? You know, do you take your child to martial arts? A lot of people take their children to martial arts and all these activities, but they don't do it with them. You're not in your judo suit or your boxing kit or your swimming suit or whatever with the child interacting, and then you wonder why the child has nothing to say and is just looking at their phone, because that's how you develop them over the period of time. If you're interacted with them all the time, it's going to be different. They're going to be asking you questions. Oh, what's that? Or what's this? And having debates and all these things. And you can see that with other cultures. There's people who look like Hasidic Jews, but they live in somewhere place in America. And their culture of just bringing up people with no TVs, no stuff, there's a lot of interaction, a lot of conversations, a lot of debates. It's totally different things. And that's in America. I can't remember what they're called. There's a film with Harrison Ford based on that.
Yazidi.
No, they're not Hasidics, Jews. They're not Jewish. They're Christians, but they're very old school Christians. Carla, do you remember the film Frantic, Harrison Ford? No? Okay. No. Okay. Well, it will come to mind, and I'll shout out the name when I remember it. But that's in answer to my...
Mormons?
No, they're not Mormons. They're not Methodists. No. They're a different group of people. Back to you, Hala.
Okay, so I was actually looking to the American map, and I've gathered some statistics about the youngest entrepreneur in America. And it's interesting to see that the youngest entrepreneur in America is 7 years old. And his name is Chloe Smith. And Chloe, I think it's a girl name, right? So she tried to take her grandmother recipe to make tea cakes because her parents didn't want to give her an electric scooter at like a $300. So she tried to make money out of the grandma recipes, and she made enough money to buy scooter within 6 weeks, and then she continued her business online. You have a lot of other youngest entrepreneur in America, another one like at age 11, 12, 15, 17, 14. So this is a new wealth is creating, not only in America, I think in all parts of the world. So how do you feel about that? How do you feel about this new generation of wealth, high tech? Do you feel that they could control the world and they could change things upside down?
Well, you've got to look at it like this. With the new wealth, anything text-based is going to be younger generation. There's a saying, what young people do today, old people do tomorrow. We're always going to be behind because they're going to understand the needs of what the new market wants. They're going to understand what their needs are and the generation below them because they're going to be more in touch. And the older generation are working and doing various different things to earn money and just keep their head above water. That would be my point on that. But back to you, Hal.
Yes, we have comments coming in. Carla?
Yeah, we do. Sasha, nice to have you back with us, Sasha. Sasha says Victor doesn't have technical problems, he's just sleeping. And also, clearly, this is in reference to what we think about Gen Z. Sasha says clearly they're weak, so he agrees with you, Simon. A lot of self-convictions, but no consistency. I saw that in sport. When they are losing their time, they are losing their time with selfies, and they don't train seriously. They think they know everything because they have YouTube, but they are weak and dreamers. Back to you.
Oh my
Hannah.
God, Sasha, I hope no Gen Z is watching us. So, okay, Sasha, tell us which generation do you belong to? We would love to know. And what did you learn from your generation, and how do you think is different than this generation? We would love to know your opinion on this. And anyone who's watching us, please type in the comment and tell us which generation do you belong to. Yes, I want to ask a question about the type of investment that you see that Generation Z are interested in. So, what do you see their behaviors of investing, guys?
Yeah, let me just jump into that. You see,
Yeah.
when I spoke to my son and my second daughter regards NFTs, the metaverse, investment in all those kind of creating stuff, the first thing that came to their mind was like, oh, it is bad for the planet. I say, why? I say mining of this stuff is bad for the planet. So that gives me an idea that these guys, they are more social conscious.
Yeah.
They're more, oh, what is good for the environment? I believe that is the kind of investment that they like. What 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 feels good for everyone, And maybe the 60s are coming back, the hippie style where everybody has to like get high and just like be happy all the time. Maybe that's what they want. But regards investment, I think this is one of the most luckiest generation ever because the amount of opportunities is right now for them. They are spoiled for choice right now, and they can be here. Unlike my generation, if you are here, it will be very difficult for you to. If you are in Nigeria, it will be very difficult for you to invest in the US, in the New York Stock Exchange or the London Stock Exchange, or invest in China or Japan. But right now, this generation has it so good that they can just be on their phone and invest all over the world in whatever they like, support whatever cause they like.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good place for this generation right now.
Okay. Speaking of your generation, and how did you struggle to build your investment? Because I think they have abundant informations and a lot of uh, in free informations, Generation Z. So how did you struggle in your generation to
I
create
just
wealth?
want to jump in there. There's something that Victor said. With this social conscience and environment, remember, that's privileged children. That's children who are very comfortable, made very comfortable by their parents. If you're really working class or you're very poor somewhere in the world, you do not worry about the environment. How am I going to get mine? Because I know you're getting yours. That's the concept, that's the attitude, that's the drive. And that's why you see poor people from poor countries or places in the world um, are usually more innovative, more driven, especially when they come to live in very wealthy countries and stuff like that. But I just want to make sure that's clear that with the young generation, we can't just put them all in one bracket
Yeah.
because, if you come from, even if you're in London, if you're really poor, you're not worried about the environment. You're just worried about how can I get that money? Yeah. And obviously, Instagram and those social media with those people sharing the highlight is a driver. As Carla said, you can't be an Instagram model or buy tickets
Yes.
to a kid.
I think that's why some of our generation don't really feel the need for this global warming thing. It's a huge concern, but it's not really because of where we are coming from. It is actually difficult for us to like start thinking about saving the planet where we need to put food on the table tomorrow. We can cut all the trees in Nigeria. We can cut so many trees, and you tell them, oh, deforestation is bad, is this, is that. They'll be like, Simon, I get your point. They'll be like, will you just keep your mouth shut because we need to feed. I need to put food on the table. My wife is expecting me to bring something home. So when you're telling me not to take this axe to chop this tree down that I can sell, you're telling me about the ozone layer. I need to make charcoal. You're telling me about the ozone layer. Yeah, Simon, I get your point. We can't just box all of them, but
Yes.
yeah.
But there is too another point about older people trying to belittle children when they are having new ideas. When you see, for example, for America, you see youngest entrepreneurs 7 years old, and they have, even if it's like a silly idea, they can make business of it. But I think that too, when 9-year-old millennial, or I don't know, 9-year-old from X generation, their ideas were not taken seriously back then, like today.
I don't know, maybe it's implementation, but remember, business about demand. So if you if there's need for what you want, it is a business and you can supply that need. Definitely. These kids these days, they can create what's it called? They can create avatars, they can create skins in games that they know that in their community of game players, like the Roblox community now, they have millions of kids who play, and they are on a certain platform. So if you create a skin that they all like, or create a game, or create something that they like and the demand, they would buy it. Talk about, say, someone like me who, because I wanted extra this for Christmas, I had to start selling stuff for my mom at
Mm.
that same age. So I'm selling water now, like we call it pure water, but I'm selling water now because I know the weather is hot. If you go out with cold bottle of water, people would buy. So it is finding the need and just like plug it.
Okay. Yes, I want to go ahead, Matilda.
I'm saying we shouldn't be very worried about Generation Z. I don't think they're gonna be like super whatever. Ha ha ha. Because the recession is happening and it's the world gonna go in a very dark places maybe soon. Do they have the character to stand? Do they have the skills to stand? Remember 100 years ago, a woman my age had more skills, more resilience. I'm sure I don't have that skill. I think the world is going where it should be. We're becoming weaker, and by generation, I'm weaker than my previous generation because I haven't seen struggle and problems that much. And I'm sure Generation Z is the same. They haven't. You don't have you don't have a lot of sweats about finding your way in the world, and you have the money. That means that you don't understand what it is to lose it all and gain it again. So I'm
Mm.
not sure. I won't bet on Generation Z. I'll bet maybe 100 years ago, my grandparents' generation, because they've seen World War One, World War II. They reinvented themselves again. They showed a different side of character that I am missing. That in my generation, you cannot find it, and I'm sure you cannot find it in Generation Z. And that's how the world gonna go towards the ugly part of humanity. And all of these green movement, all of these are a show. I don't think really they know how to handle world.
Okay. So let's pretend we are like 19, 18-year-old, just get out from high school and you see everything that is happening. Would you do the same decision and go to university and get a degree?
Yeah,
Or you just,
I will. Because it's not about that. It's about being among your peers, learning the discipline of waking up, having exams, not sleeping, working hard, working towards something that it's that's beautiful. I've even handling friends, going out on parties and coming home and studying and doing exam. That's a skill that you learn in your university time. It's something that you're not gonna receive it any other time in your life, but that time. So why not? Why should you skip that for money? No, not everything is money. This is the problem with Generation Z. They think about money. Everything is not that. Social understanding how the world function, interacting with other human beings, having close connection with other humans, that worth so much than, I don't know, buying a home.
go ahead, Simon.
Just to jump in there, I met a Generation Z young girl. I think she was Jewish or Israeli or something like that, but she lives in London. And she was very, very conscious. And why I speak about her, because she said, listen, I know I'm from a very privileged background and I understand like the stocks, shares, investments, and all these things. And I want to share that with people who don't understand, who are, let's say, from working class or council estates. And she set up a YouTube channel. Well, basically, she's just educating people on stuff that other people would make you pay an arm and a leg for on that. And that really touched me, that she had that attitude. And I've met quite a few older people with that attitude as well. And obviously, people follow their parents. So there are younger generations out there like that. But what I'm saying is, it's just that there's still that mix. We can't kind of put everybody in that one bubble. You do get that, but then I have met other young people who just say, "Where's the money at?" That kind of attitude is just, different. And that's about it on that one.
We've got some comments coming in. Sasha says, I think there's a part of determinism in the evolution of societies. It's just about cycles. You see the influence of the society on the generations. People are more sensitive than intelligent, so they just repeat what they listen most of the time. They don't think. They don't have time for that. And Sasha also adds, they think about the green energy, but they know nothing about physics or just nature. So you see the influence of the lobbies behind.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's interesting. And we would love to have someone from Generation Z to challenge our ideas and to jump into the discussion. Yes, and I think actually each generation will criticize the other generation ahead. Millennial generation were very criticized. Do you think that, Matilda? Millennials.
Yeah, but they're amazing. I think it's natural. It's natural. I'm sure every generation criticizes the other ones, and I think it's very natural of me to criticize Generation Z as well. For me, they're lazy, but I'm sure the previous generation of me, they think my generation is lazy. And I'm sure 100 years ago, they think, oh my God, what are these people? Are they even human or lazy people from another planet? I think that's natural, and the world is going as it's going. But the unfortunate part is, I feel like we don't have thinkers anymore that challenge the society, takes the society in a different way intellectually. That will be the problem, because then when one world order comes, everyone will follow, and that's where we will see a decline in human capacity.
Yes. And what do you think are the different patterns that we see from Generation Z and Generation Y, the millennial? What do you think the difference between them? Maybe Carla?
Yeah, I think it's mostly about the reliance on technology, and what Simon said earlier about the lack of connectedness with other human beings, particularly the family. I think one of the biggest factors has been the movement of mothers into work. Between the millennials and the Gen Z, the breakdown of the family has also been a factor in society, and it's accelerated at a rapid rate. So if you think back to my generation, Gen X, it was rare to find a single parent. It wasn't impossible, but it was rare. I knew I grew up in a single parent household, but most of my classmates didn't. Whereas now it's completely the opposite. It's rare to find a two-parent household, particularly in certain parts of the world. And I think that's had a massive impact. Being a lone parent myself for much of my life, I find it's very, very difficult to spend a lot of time with your children, and you have to really juggle how you do that. And then when you have multiple children as well, being able to split that time when you're not working between those children and give them that individual time is really challenging. But then with the movement of people and the shifting of society and values and the structure of the family, you also have things like grandparents not being a big part of children's lives, because maybe parents live far away from grandparents now because of work. So where grandparents, aunts, uncles, extended family would have played a key role in the development of children throughout their childhood, and through critical stages like teens and young adults, and that's also not there. So not only are the parents often lacking connection and time with the children. But then the extended family, where the values, the religion, the culture was passed on, is also missing. And I think, I mean, it's so complex, isn't it? There are lots of factors, as well as the technology. And we often talk a lot about the technology, but there are more things than that. And also, what we spoke about a few times now tonight is the overemphasis on finances as being the core thing, which is the reason why a lot of parents leave their children to go to work. Both parents will leave and go to work because of improving the standards of the family. But where there's a gain financially, there's often a loss socially, emotionally. And then that also takes a strain on the relationship, because not only do children need time, but couples need time as well, time together. So the relationships take a hit. The extended family gets pushed further and further away, depending on your culture, so that you can live in the city and you can have access to more opportunities. People use that as well. They say, I'm moving my children to give them lots of opportunities. I think all of those are factors that we've seen a massive change in each generation to the state that we see today. And it's not all negative. I think some of it's positive, like the improvement in women's education standards. There are lots of studies that show a strong correlation between lots of positive outcomes for children and increasing mothers' education specifically. But I think the mistake comes when we assume that an educated mother has to then use that education to serve outside the house rather than in the house. And also, for a lot of people from different backgrounds, having mums work and increase their economic status to a certain degree can have a positive impact on the children, but it's a huge challenge to balance it. And from generation to generation, we're not really doing a great job with that, I think, in some parts of the world.
Yeah, totally agree with you. Simon?
No, I was just going to agree with what Carla was saying about the saying, if you educate a man, you educate an individual, you educate a woman, you educate a nation. And yeah, I remember hearing about the survey where if you educate a mum, the emphasis on education for her daughters becomes much more stronger. And I've spoken to many Arabs from Saudi and these places, and the ladies, they come here to London and they're doing these like engineering, all these big, heavy courses, degrees, you know, that lots of math.
How is that statement correct, anyways?
Sorry?
I said, how is that statement even correct?
What do you mean?
You educate a man, you educate an individual. When you educate a woman, you educate a nation.
I'll tell you why.
I'm not sure that statement is just nah.
Right, Victor, think of it like this.
Nah.
Think of it like this. When you leave, if you leave, you don't take the kids with you in most countries. Most countries, the mum always is left with the kids. Whether she wants them or she doesn't, she's left with the kids. So therefore, if you educate a woman, a mum, you educate a nation, because she passes that on. Do you see what I mean? Because she's left with that responsibility of the children.
That statement to me is just too nah.
I understand why you may not like it because you're a father who's been involved throughout. But history shows, especially with wars, when you
there's an agenda behind that statement. That statement is not educate a woman.
Well, Victor, no one's saying not to educate men. Because remember, a mother, we're saying educates her children. We're not saying they educate the girl children. They educate the children. Yeah. Children includes male and females. Okay. Are we happy?
Okay, guys, I just want to add something.
Should I go on or should I? Classes.
Let's end it here.
This kind of statement is just when you educate these. Who said that? How is that correct?
Okay.
That's not correct at all.
Victor,
it is good to educate children, male or female. That's it.
There's no one saying.
It depends on the education system we receive.
Victor, if you listen to the saying, I think you're getting it mixed up. No one's saying not to educate a male or boy or a child. We're talking adults. A man who's educated, he will go his own way. A woman who educated, all her children that she has left over, she will educate. And think of it, Victor, someone like me who's seen as a chauvinistic pig, if I'm talking on behalf of this statement, it's probably true.
Yeah, and I see, and if you see, and if you see someone like Matilda's favorite artist, Kim, that she wants to take the son or the daughter away, and you see the way the guy is fighting for the daughter.
Yes, and you do
Yeah,
have that,
so
Victor.
it doesn't really follow. So those kind of
Yeah, but
statements
Victor,
sometimes.
no one's disputing that. No one's disputing that. But at the end of the day, what will happen? He will take his child, yeah, and then he will call his sister, his aunt, his mum, yeah, and they will help him with that child. So it goes back to another woman who will help him educate the child. Why? Because he's got to earn money. And he can't do both. He can't stay at home, look after the child, and go to work.
Simon, what I'm saying is the priority should be educate.
No one's disputing that.
Yeah, so those kind of statements means put more emphasis on educating the girl child because
No.
because
It's in reference to adults.
Guys, I just want to add information. Maybe it will ease the discussion a little bit. I was looking to a study in McKinsey. They have done it about the mental illness of Generation Z, and they have reported that Generation Z, they are the most generation that they feel emotionally distressed and lonely, and they are like 25%. Almost double the level reported by millennial and Gen X. Gen X, they were 13%, and baby boomers 8%. So we seen a major problem with mental health in Gen Z. Either if the parents are very educated or they have a higher degree or diploma. I think, like Carla said, there is a little bit of emotional unavailability that parents they don't give to their children. Carla, could you speak to that, to these numbers?
Yeah, definitely. And I would say even in I was a teacher for a long time, over 15 years, and I definitely saw a difference in just the connection that children had with their parents, like just in simple things like how far they get left at the school gate. So when I first started my job, for example, parents would be right in the school. Sometimes you have to get them out. And you know, they're kissing their children and attached to their children, and children are crying and clinging on to parents. And I saw that gradually extend towards children being left further and further down the road or outside the gate, and sometimes parents not ever being seen, like children just arriving in and leaving out. And some parents, you don't even know how to match them to their children because you just don't see them inside the school building or anywhere near the building at all. Sometimes children are going home alone and they're coming to school alone, and they're letting themselves in the house alone at much younger and younger age. And I think those things do affect children emotionally. And I think I also saw an increase in things like social, emotional, and behavioral difficulties, which then goes on to feed these statistics of mental distress. And all of that really does go down to what Matilda talks about a lot, which is your social connections, your connections to other human beings, just the general feeling of someone out there is caring for you. And the more adults that are caring for you, the better that is from a young age. So when you've got a mum, you've got dad, you've got grandmas and granddads on both sides, you've got aunts and uncles, it gives you a sense of being important, being special, being loved, being cared for. And I think that the lack of that, not because parents don't care, but just because of, like you mentioned, the term emotional unavailability, it gives children a feeling of vulnerability and instability as well, and just a sense of, where do I belong? I think we see a lot of that, don't we? It's like questioning belongingness and where do I fit in? And a lot of that it's not in the physical world now. A lot of young people without that in the physical world then take to the internet or to gang life, what we see a lot here in the UK, or things like that, in order to feel a sense of belonging, a sense of community almost. So I think that's really a challenge for right now, but also for the coming generations, as we see metaverse developing and all of these different things that are detaching people more and more from reality. I think that's a big concern that we need to address, really.
Yeah.
And just to add to that, I was a classic example. Obviously, I really know as I'm always working, doing some job or other. When my son came to live with me, he's about 10 years old. I thought, well, he can go to school on his own. He can do this and that. And I kind of guided him, and what have you. And then I expected him to come home. But knowing what I know now, that's a big mistake. You do need to be there when your son comes home, when your child comes home from school. You do need to find out how their day is, or pick them up from school, or if you can't get home on time, arrange for a youth club or them to go to a family member's house. Because those 2 hours gap, there's all manner of things that they start to get themselves into and get influenced by other children. Obviously, there's danger of predators, adults, and all these other things. And if they survive, they become very streetwise and hardened. And if they don't, we will hear about them on the 10 o'clock news. But yeah, but no, it's true though. It's true because you hear about they've done something drastic. They've stabbed another child or something like that. And I remember when, just go a bit deeper, my son, I think he was 10 or 12, and he had a really good friend, and the friend, dad was in jail, and the mum wasn't really able to handle him. I can't really comment on the mum, but a group of them that they all hanged around, they went off and they killed another kid. No, these are 12 years old. And I explained to my son, I said, so we went through all of his friends and said, how many of them had their dads around? None of them. None of them had their dads living with them. Some didn't know their dads. It speaks measures. There's a reason for that. I said, and that's what my point to him is that why I'm on him at times. And I say, no, you can't go over there and play out and do this or do that. Because you've got to be aware. You've got to be aware of also the children, the friends that you're keeping, your child's keeping. And this goes for male and females. Back to you, Hannah.
I'm sorry, a 12-year-old killed another
Yeah,
peer?
there's a bunch of them.
How is this possible? What kind of a generation is this?
Well,
It's
actually,
very,
Matilda, in
Who
2021, there were, in London alone, in the UK, there were about 30 young men between the ages of 14 and 19 stabbed to death.
it got to the point that one kid was being killed every week.
Yeah, and it's an ongoing issue, actually, in the UK.
The crime, yes, the knife crimes.
Mm.
I have heard a lot of
Yeah,
it.
so we don't have guns here like you do in America or other countries. So they kind of real gone Braveheart on each other. I don't know if you know that film, a medieval film where the Scottish are fighting England and they're all using swords.
That's our generation, Simon.
Uh,
What you call Braveheart's our generation.
Yeah, that's one half of my ancestry.
But guys, the Gen X, for example, generation, they are the highest generation with drug abuse and drug consumption, with heroin and everything, and the hippies and stuff. So
Yeah, because their parents were the baby boomers. Yeah, Gen X parents, my parents were baby boomers. So the baby boomer generation was the generation that experimented with the whole hippie lifestyle culture. So a lot of Gen X people were born to parents that had different views on drug abuse than what people might have now. I just want to read the comments that we've got coming in. We've got a couple of good comments from Sasha. He says, excellent example with the girl who has a YouTube channel on the stock exchange. They have zero personal experience, but they want to communicate. They just repeat. They don't create or think for themselves. I think that's a great example. And also, Carla is right about education. It's the most important thing in life, to listen, learn, think, and later start to discuss and transmit something. When I was younger at the table, I was listening to the adults. I wasn't trying to attract the attention. Back to you, Hannah.
yes, that is interesting. Actually, the learning behavior also changed.
See, if you know that Sasha just told us his generation, the generation that sits down and listen to adult talk is our generation. We sit down, we don't interrupt, we just listen.
So what is called?
That's the Gen Z. No, the Gen X. We are the Gen X, right?
Yes, Gen X.
Yeah, we're the Gen X. Yeah. You see, Sasha, you just showed yourself, man. You just showed yourself.
Okay, so what we could learn from this new generation, I think we have a lot of things to learn from them. So, what do you think we can learn from them?
Ooh. Speed, speed, how to get attention, marketing, you know.
Selfies,
Woo, there's so many things to learn from them.
Instagram.
Yeah, speed, marketing, getting attention. Ooh, how to learn fast, know how to learn. Ooh, there's so many things, and sometimes it's a joy to watch them do their thing when they're in their element, doing their thing. Just a joy to watch them. You can do this. You can actually do this. You can. It is wonderful. It just yeah, and see, and sometimes the joy that they get from doing what they're doing, you'll be taken away by. So most, I don't know if how to say this, but they when they're in that zone, they're very present, and you
Yes,
just love them for just being themselves. Sometimes you love them for just being themselves.
yeah. They are multitasking as well, so that is very interesting. They
Short
can,
attention span, short attention span.
and how do you think about the consumption? I mean, the use of social media. I think a lot of us here we use Facebook more than Instagram, and I see a lot of Gen Z that are like, "Well, do you still use Facebook? It's outdated. You need to upgrade yourself and go on TikTok and other apps." How do you feel about that?
Depends if you want to have client or customers of Generation Z, or you want to be related by
Mm.
Generation Z, then you have to be, up to date. Same thing that my parents, if they want to communicate with me, they have to be on WhatsApp, they have to wait, FaceTime. I mean, they cannot wait for me to call on the phone to them. I think every generation brings you, modernize you in a way. But I mean, I'm not a big fan of Generation Z. I'm sorry, I'm not. I feel like they will make the world in a difficult situation, and I'm worried about that.
Okay. Well, let's see what's going to happen with all this new technology because it's built for them first than us. We are very old to to be in that metaverse and new technology, but I think it's very focused on the on this new generation. Any final thoughts, guys, on this topic?
What
Just
I would
enjoy
say,
your generation. Every generation has its own beauty. I think we should just enjoy it and don't think the other generation has it better. They don't have it. No, none of it have it. It's. I think the world is balanced, and we come with strength and weakness, and it's beautiful.
yeah, I think what you said is absolutely on point, Matilda. But I would just say this from one quote from an author who wrote the book, the post-apocalyptic, wrote a post-apocalyptic novel. You know those kind of words that only Carla can pronounce. Post-apocalyptic novel. So his name is George Hoff. He says hard times create strong men, and strong men create good times create weak men, and weak men create hard time. So it's the circle they get. So now I don't hope that this is the weakest time that will be, because if Russia invades, it's gonna be catastrophic. But I'll say um Gen Z, they are pushing the boundary of humanity when it comes to technology and creativity as well. So it is, I don't know, good times ahead. Good times ahead.
Okay, great. We have an optimistic view. Yes, Carla, for the comment.
Yeah, Sasha says baby boomers created the Gen Z. You see the results of drugs on the brain. So yeah, one or two generations later, I definitely agree with that. And Sasha says, again, the son of my cousin was talking a lot about cryptos or NFTs. Curiously, he's not talking anymore. You see the consistency. Yeah, I think the trends and the jumping from one topic to another is definitely an issue with the new generation because something's always changing. Back to you, Howard.
Yeah, so we are at the end of the show, and I had really fun talking about different Generation Z. And yes, so any final thoughts, guys, before we wrap up the show? Okay, introduce yourself, Carla, please.
Yeah, I'm Carla. I'm the host of the Wonder and Wellbeing podcast, which is a podcast all about education and well-being. Over to you, Victor.
Yeah, I'm Victor Seo. I'm the host of the Diaspora Entrepreneurs podcast, and I'm on Spotify, YouTube. Yeah, YouTube. All major platforms, including iTunes. Over to you, Matilda.
And my podcast, Coffee with Matilda, Journey to Self, is on all the platforms on podcasting platforms, and YouTube and Facebook. Over to you, Simon.
Thanks, Matilda. Taxi Chronicles is my podcast. I interview people in the car, and Africa Investor Stories is my podcast about my podcast about investing in Africa, where I interview people from all over the world. And just like everybody else, we're all major platforms. We can be found. Back to you, Howler.
And I'm the host of the podcast, Women Stories Podcast. Tune in for new changes in the podcast. And I would like to thank all the audience who participated in and who's people who's watching us. Thank you so much. And if you find it interesting, please like, subscribe, and share. And also, we would love to see you again next Monday, 7 p.m. UK time. Thank you for being here. Bye.